Welcome to Across the Desk, where we discuss entrepreneurship, small business, and everything in between. Hey, it's Elizabeth Plouffe, and welcome to Across the Desk. And I'm going to, full disclosure right off the bat, this is a bit of a re-record. So I made a commitment yesterday to record a podcast every Monday. Why did I do that? Well, I made the wise decision in 2017, and so happy 2018, Happy New Year, to hire a business coach. And her name is Holly Simmons. If you've listened to some other podcasts, I've mentioned her before. And so one of the things I'm looking to relieve this year is disorganizational stress. And what do I mean by that? So what I mean by that is when I am working with a new client, working with any client, my biggest suggestion to them is to create a content calendar and add structure to their communications. Why? Because then it makes it much easier to see what's coming. You don't miss deadlines. It makes it easier in the creative process. But here's my dirty little secret. I have not been walking the talk. And so my commitment to Holly is that I'm going to schedule my podcast in, follow the list that I already have, and create content. So yesterday, by gum, I was going to get my damn podcast out. It was 11:15. I was tired. It had been a long day. And I had the idea to talk about being bass-ackwards, which I'm still going to talk about. But it just didn't turn out quite the way I had hoped. And I even recorded it like 4 or 5 times yesterday, and it's still a little off the beam. So I thought, you know what? Here's the thing. When you listen to this, unless I tell you, you're not going to know if I recorded it on a Monday or a Friday or in my pajamas, sitting in a jacuzzi. So I've decided to re-record. So this is what you're listening to now. So what's Basackwardness? Well, this came up yesterday. And part of the story that came up is that from a very young age, my mom and my dad, actually, I'm going to throw them both under the bus. It's all my parents' fault. Used to tell me that I was backwards. I did everything backwards. I had to do it the hard way. And I could never figure out why. And part of that came up. The solution for that came up yesterday. So if you are also one of those type A kind of people that have to do everything the hard way and don't see value when things come easy, then this podcast is for you. Because, my friend, for years and years and years, I have discounted skills and abilities as a service that can be paid for if they came easy to me. Why? Because if they come easy to me, well, then everybody must be able to do it. And I'm not diminishing my skill set or anything like that, but that's just the way my brain works. So this is the story that I shared with Holly, which is actually kind of funny. But a few years ago, I had a health issue. And that health issue kept getting passed off by the male doctors who saw me as an ovary issue. And, if you're not aware, which I'm sure you are, ovaries, testicles, basically the same thing, just in different parts of different people's anatomy. And so I had been going in and out of hospital and in and out of clinics and whatever with this right-sided pain that nobody could figure out, but the male doctors that I was seeing kept saying it was my ovary. And so finally, after 4 or 5 months, I had enough. And they couldn't find my appendix on ultrasound. They couldn't find it on CT, and yet they still dismissed it as my ovary. So they couldn't actually say whether it was an appendicitis or not. And on top of that, the male doctor that I was seeing dismissed my pain as really not that serious. And was it that bad? And could I not basically suck it up? I was not in enough pain from his perspective to be an appendicitis. So my offer to him was, as ovaries and testicles are, largely the same thing and experience pain somewhat the same way, I said, okay, well, you come over here. You can choose the testicle. I'm going to give it a good hard squeeze for a good 5-10 minutes. You can't move. You can't get away with it. You can't take any painkillers for it. I'm just going to give it a good hard squeeze. You tell me how much that hurts, and we'll decide if we keep going and you continue suffering with that or we do something about it. What do you think about that? So needless to say, he did not take me up on my offer. And I thought it was very fair, but he did not agree. But he did, however, get a better understanding of the amount of pain I was actually in. So the upshot of all of this, I ended up having an emergency appendectomy, which had complications, but, in the end, turned out fine. And I found out that I am biologically built to be backwards. So not only am I born backwards? I was a breech birth, but my appendix was actually what they call retrocecal. So instead of hanging down off the end of my large intestine, and if you're not aware, I have a healthcare background, so if I use weird words, I'm really sorry. It's just the way my brain works. And your appendix, it's vestigial, right? It doesn't really have a purpose anymore. It's just there to annoy us and be aggravated by our current lifestyle. Mine, however, did not hang down in the customary manner. Mine was tucked up in behind my large intestine, which is why they couldn't find it on any regular kind of testing. So the hilarious part of this was that my mom, bless her heart, my dad passed away when I was 20, so I couldn't call him with this news. Called my mom after my visit to the surgeon and said, "Hey, you were right. I am backwards. In fact, I'm backwards from the inside out." And we both laughed hysterically. But that being backwards, that negating things that come easy to me as being valuable to others has caused my life a little bit of stress, right? So why is that? Well, it's because I always end up having to do things the hard way to make sure that they have value. If it comes easy to me, like I said before, then it must come easy to other people. So, why would anybody want to pay me to do that? Turns out I'm full of crap, and that's not the case. And if you are fortunate, like me, to have skills and abilities that come to you that are easy, they do have value to other people. And you may have already had this epiphany, and you may not have had to go through an appendectomy and all kinds of other great stuff to realize that. But I've figured it out now, which is fantastic. Part of the reason I've figured that out is that I have been fighting getting a coach for my business for the last year and a half. I figured I could do it. I figured I could do the research. I could, listen to Carrie Green. I could listen to Sheila Cummings. I could listen to Miri Forleo. I could go on Creative Live and get courses. I didn't need a coach because, coaching would make it easy. And then if it made it easy, there's no value. The dumbass that I am. So recently, and I don't know if you've listened to it or not, but I did a book review it's on the Across the Desk podcast, but I do Wise Word Wednesdays or Wise Words, where I do book reviews. I read like a crazy person and figured I'm going to save you time and energy. If a book is terrific, you'll know right away. I'm going to be very enthusiastic. If it sucks, I'm going to tell you that too. And I realize that reading is a personal choice and it's going to respond to you differently, but there are just some books that suck ass no matter what you do, and I don't want you to waste your time with those. However, Jen Sincero's book, Badass at Making Money, terrific book. Highly recommend. You will learn something from it, period. And one of the recommendations that she made was getting a coach. Get a business coach, get unstuck. And after reading enough successful people, after borrowing their knowledge, after assimilating it and finally agreeing to it, I finally met the right coach. And so Holly and I are working together, and I'm really excited about that. And Holly, through the discussion yesterday, was the one that made me see that I dismiss my skills and abilities because they come easy to me, and I go for the challenging stuff because then I see it has value. So here's a couple of the things that I'd like to recommend to you. If you've been struggling with something, like I have, for the past little while, and part of it is born of stubbornness or Basackwardness, then examine why that's happening. Because until you figure out why you're being a stubborn jackass, until you figure out why you're doing it the hard way, you won't accept doing it the easy way. And you can do like I've done and waste a year and a half trying to figure it out on your own, or you can take advantage of the smart people that you know and either hire a coach or, take a smart person out to dinner, whatever. It usually requires more than one dinner to figure it out, unless they're really good and kind of related to Freud. For Holly and I, it's taken 4 sessions to figure it out. I could be a little slow, who knows? But take that action. If you are like me, like I say, and you suffer from the Basackwardness complex of having to make things challenging in order to see the value in them, take a moment to figure out why. Take action with that and get a coach, and then let it go. And realize that could be if you suffer from imposter syndrome, for an example, that could be why. Because you're really good at something. Everybody's really good at something. And that doesn't mean it doesn't have value for other people. You don't have to beat the crap out of yourself and do things the hard way in order for things to have value. What you do have to do is either get out of your own way and accept it and move forward with it and be successful and make money like a badass, or Find somebody who has a different skill set than you, who's going to have a different viewpoint than you, who you can discuss the situation with, get better perspective, and then move shit forward. This is a bit of a cuss word kind of podcast, but anyway. So the advantage of all of this is that I'm going to accept the fact, it might take me, another session or two, but I am much further ahead, thanks to Holly, that being bass-ackwards is okay. Wanting to do things your own way, which is also part of my problem, is okay. Being stubborn about certain things is okay. There are certain things I will not back down on. I will not back down. If somebody's being mistreated or somebody's, having a problem and not getting the help they need or whatever, I won't back down on that. I won't back down if somebody's coming at me and being rude and they're trying to, bully me into doing what they want me to do. That will not end well. Won't back down on that. But there are other things where I can learn to bend. There are other things where I can learn to accept help. There are other things where I can understand that making the road a little easier for myself just gets me to success that much faster. And that's freaking awesome. I had a terrific 2017. I hope you did too. And I am really looking forward to 2018. I'm really looking forward to taking advantage of my bass-ackwarddness. I'm really looking forward to understanding that being stubborn does have its benefits, but there are times where you take advantage of smarter people and move things forward in better ways. And I'm also really looking forward to my Mondays with you. I hope you'll look forward to them too. You should see a podcast if you've signed up in your inbox every Monday from me on a variety of topics. Also starting a new podcast series, which I'm really excited about, with Karen Swish of Making the Bacon. And you'll be seeing that coming out soon. So see what happens. You get out of your own way. You look for opportunities. You say yes. You do all that great stuff. And just shit starts to happen, people. It does. So again, I hope you had a fantastic 2017. I hope you had a peaceful 2018, holiday season. Whatever you celebrate, happy Kwanzaa, happy Hanukkah, or, just you and a tree and a cup full of happy, whatever you need to do. I took a break from technology, so I'm really excited to be back with more energy and more excitement about what I'm doing. And I'm really excited to see where the coaching and the expertise from Holly takes my business. Hopefully, a little less bass and a little more ackwards. I hope you're having a fantastic day. Just know that you always have the guts and the glory to make your own story. And I'll talk to you soon. Bye-bye. Thank you for listening to Across the Desk. You can follow me on Twitter at MCBComms, Instagram at MCBCommunications, or visit mcbcommunications.ca to see where else I'm hiding out.